Welcome to Film Cafe. Today we'll be reviewing the film Jason Bourne, and we'll be giving our thoughts on it. So let's start with NETX5. What was your thoughts on Jason Bourne?
For me, I'm somewhere in the middle. However, I kind of hate it a bit more. Like, it's not a bad movie, but I was expecting a bit more. It was nowhere near like the level of good that was the Bourne Ultimatum, and to me, I was a bit disappointed with this film.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just going to say this outright. I don't like the Jason Bourne movies very much, and I can understand why people like them, but it's just not my type of movie. So mine's going to be very subjective. I'm just going to put it out there. But overall, this movie did not change my mind about the Jason Bourne series. I thought that the movie was very similar to the first few movies, which can be both a good and a bad. I did feel like the movie, for me, I did not enjoy the movie myself. But yeah, I can see why some people did.
Well, I quite enjoyed it, actually. I thought it was a good, good introduction, like good part of the original sort of movies, because you get rid of the fourth one, which sort of went off another completely different thing. I thought that it was interesting. I thought Alicia Vikander was really good, and I thought it was good to see Matt Damon back, and I liked the sort of flashback stuff in it. But yeah, ultimately, I thought what I was really interested in was the idea of what happens to him now. You know, what does he do now after he's gone through all this and done all this sort of stuff? What happens? But the film didn't really go into that too much, which I thought it should have, but yeah, overall I thought it was good.
The story didn't need to happen, because like they beautifully wrapped it up with the third film. The story didn't need to exist, and it feels like they just tacked it on there for like what they're like basically like what they're doing with the Bourne series now is like, oh, we're doing it for the money. People will see it because the first three movies were so good. So here you go, spend money on some shit film like this.
What did you think, Monty?
Best film experience of the past few months when I went to go see that film yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, now listen to me. 2016 has been a very odd year for movies. It started off fantastically with Batman vs Superman and World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft film was just amazing. I would not have a bad thing said about either of those movies. But after that, films just started going downhill, like with Star Trek, Sausage Party, what was the last review we did? Suicide Squad, yeah. Civil War was a dog shit movie, it was a terrible movie. But then finally there's a ray of hope, which is this film, Jason Bourne.
Sorry, but what about Hunt for the Willy People? What about Sing Street? What about Goldstone? What about these like films that wouldn't get as big attention, like, because they are these small art films, and I know they wouldn't reach a bigger audience, but like, to me those films were impressive, and like, if you like this film, that's fine, but to me, I was more impressed with about a young New Zealand boy who goes on an adventure throughout New Zealand with his uncle, which is Sam Neill. Like, I found it to be a more engaging movie than this film itself.
But the thing is, though, is about Hunt for the Wilder People. It's an indie film, and overall, from an intellectual point of view, I'm always more impressed by indie films because they look into subject matter which has not been explored before. But when it comes to big pro movies, I feel like if I'm impressed by a bigger production movie, it's more deserving of it. Like, I'm not saying that Hunt for the Wilder People isn't deserving of its brilliance, because it is a brilliant film. But I still think that Jason Bourne is a ray of sunshine in the genre of big blockbuster movies that we've been seeing recently. And I personally think Jason Bourne is brilliant.
Well, okay, we'll go with like characters.
I didn't mind these characters. Like, again, Matt Damon delivers as Jason Bourne. Alicia Vikander gives a great performance as her character. I don't know, Tommy Lee Jones, it feels like he phoned in this performance as it did feel a bit half-assed, and just like he didn't give a shit this time around, which is disappointing because like loved him in The Fugitive, which he won an Oscar for, and like I feel like because there have been good like Jason Bourne villains in the past. And like with a big name like Tommy Lee Jones, I was expecting a bit more, and I was kind of disappointed with Tommy Lee Jones' performance.
And what did you think?
I thought that I liked Jason Bourne's character. I strangely liked Tommy Lee Jones, just based off I like the actor, and also it's just good to see him being a villain. He's still acting and being a villain. And I thought that he was one of the few things I actually enjoyed about the film.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Tommy Lee Jones was great. Like, I think he did the best he could with what he had. There wasn't a lot for him there, I guess.
Yeah.
Alicia Vikander, I think's a rising star, and she's brilliant. I watch her in pretty much anything. And Matt Damon is, Matt Damon. Like, he's created this great Bourne character, and he does a really great performance. But yeah. And I thought Julia Stiles was pretty good as well. But even though she was only a small thing, but she was the thing to get stuff started. And what did you think of the characters?
I didn't have a problem with any of the characters. Like, first off, I did have a problem with the asset, just about the way he acted, but as we learned more about him throughout the film, I really did like his character, because unlike other assets that we've seen, like in Bourne Ultimatum and Bourne Identity, where they're kind of anonymous, this one holds something significant to Bourne. I won't go into the detail of why he's significant, but there's a real connection between them, which is something that hasn't really been seen before in the Bourne film. And the thing about Tommy Lee Jones, personally, I'm not really that intimidated by most of the Bourne franchise's villains. Like, I was by the Doctor in number 3, in the Ultimatum. But like all the previous ones, I wasn't really that intimidated. But Tommy Lee Jones did bring something that I felt was very powerful. Like, all the other ones didn't seem that powerful, but Tommy Lee Jones felt very powerful in the role. And what's her name who played the girl?
Alicia Vikander.
Alicia Vikander.
She's one of my favourite up and coming actors, because she never breaks character. Like, I find that sometimes young up and coming actors, they tend to break character quite a bit in their roles. They change very much. But she never broke her role in that film, and it just felt brilliant. Like, she made changes to it, but it just felt brilliant. And Matt Damon brought a very different kind of Bourne that we used to, because
a bit darker.
Yeah, because Bourne is, as we saw in the first film, he was very young, he was very confused, and he seemed to talk more. And as the franchise went on, as darker crap started happening to him, he just got quieter and quieter, until he virtually had nothing to say in this movie. And I really like that, because that's what would happen at that age in someone's life when they've seen all this crap go down. Yeah. You wouldn't speak at all. You'd be very quiet. And I like the way he looked and everything as well. I like, like the little spots he has here and there, and like the grazes from his fights and stuff. I just really like all the characters in the movie. I won't have.
So what do we think of the story, the overall story and the arc of the film?
Didn't need to be in here, because I already mentioned it. Didn't need to happen. Felt a bit tacked on, and it was okay, decent in parts, but it was just an excuse for Jason Bourne to go on location again and do an action stunt. Which let's make it clear, the action once again is spectacular, because that's what the Jason Bourne films has always done, which is like do action well. But getting back to it, yeah, just the story, I wasn't a big fan of it. It was okay, but it was okay, but not great. It could have been done better.
Oh, well, I thought that the movie, I hate to say it, but it was a cookie-cutter Bourne movie's storyline, which it can be, like I said before, it can be a good thing. But personally, for me, I just thought it was too. It was simple, but it also felt a little bit too simple for my tastes. And I thought, but I will say that I did like the villain. Like I said before, I did like the villain, but overall, I wasn't a huge fan of the story. But yeah.
No, I thought the story was kind of good. It was like trying to completely finish off the story. I felt, though, if it had went more into what happened, what does he do now? Like, he's gone through all this, how does he move on with life? That sort of stuff's kind of interesting to me, but they didn't go on enough of that. But overall, it's kind of interesting. It's like, no matter how many times they pull him in, like, there's always someone trying to manipulate him, and that's sort of it, and he's just trying to find his way through it. But I thought it was kind of good, and like I said, I think it finished off the sort of series, and it got rid of that fourth one and sort of got back to the main story. And as a part of the other films, I think it fits nicely.
What Alex said about it being a cookie-cutter Bourne film, I do agree with that, but I believe that there was a purpose to it, because like the Bourne trilogy was fantastic. Like, there's no doubt about it was brilliant. But then came along Bourne Legacy, which was a piece of crap. Like, it basically like the whole trilogy led up to the point where you can finally say Jason Bourne is the most deadliest man on the planet, and he works for CIA and all that sort of thing. Mm. But suddenly there's another Black Ops dude in Bourne Legacy who's even more Black Ops than Jason Bourne is. which like is just a stupid concept in my point of view. So they had to erase the fourth film, which put a dampener on the series, which is what Star Wars did, because people believe, not necessarily me, but people believe that the prequel trilogy was terrible, so they had to erase it by doing a cookie cutter story similar to the first one they made, which draw in everyone's fandom. Because let's face it, Force Awakens does have a lot of things that are very similar to A New Hope, and I believe that like this one was very similar to Bourne Supremacy. Like someone goes out and finds him, there's a new agency instead of Blackbriar and Treadstone and all that sort of thing, and then obviously this one's called Iron Hand. There's another CIA director who's an old man who's a bit difficult to work with. There's a girl who helps him. There's a girl with blonde hair who dies. I believe it is very similar in those sorts of respect, but it just served to revitalise the Bourne franchise, because Legacy was not something the Bourne franchise should ever have ended on. It was not a good film, and I believe they managed to save it with this film.
Alright, so let's wrap it up. Let's give our overall opinion. Good Chap, what's your overall opinion on this film?
Because I am a cynic and I'm a realist, I would like to give it a 4.8 instead of a 5 out of 5, a 4.8 out of 5, because there are not many things I believe should be changed in that film. But if they are planning on revitalising Bourne, they need to change the story up a little bit, which is what probably we're going to do, as I said, with Star Wars. But I'm just going to leave it with 4.8 out of 5.
Sean, what did you think?
Overall, I thought it was an entertaining film. I thought it would sort of fit nicely in the rest of it, and I'd give it 4 out of 5.
Alex, what did you think?
I'm going to save my verdict just because I have not liked any of the Bourne movies, and I just feel like me giving a score to a movie which has not changed my mind about the Bourne movies or thing would just be redundant. So I'm not going to score this film.
You're not going to score it?
No, I'm not going to score it.
Well, I could have said that about the Suicide Squad review, but I still scored it.
No, not scoring it.
You serious?
Just because if I was going to score it, I'd probably give it a 1 star. But because
Do that.
But because of my previous with this film, so I'm not going to give it an official score. But if you're going to give it a score, I would probably give it a 1 star.
All right.
Okay, we'll go with 1.
Okay, so we got a score from you, and it's a 1. Okay, that's fine. But yeah, for me, it's good, not great. Was expecting to get more. Story was a bit hit and miss. Action was still good. Characters were still good. Overall, still a fun movie. Still is what Jason Bourne is, but it feels like they were just lacking this time around. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
So out of 20, that'd be some sort of big number.
That'd be let's call it roughly 3 stars, 3 to 3.5 stars.
I'll settle with 3.5.
3.5,
Because at least then it's more than Suicide Squad.
So
That's just the main thing.
We'll give 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah. Alright, sweet.
Would you like to wrap this out this time?
Well, this has been Film Cafe. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.
And we are
Film Cafe. Yeah, Jason Bourne was awesome.